Peace. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I am Sir Foul Player of Brooklyn with my new channel called Behold. Wanted to talk about this government shutdown, and we're in now day three. I see a lot of hyperventilating in the regular media regarding this shutdown, largely because the shutdown for people who don't really, read on these things or who want to look for a negative headline of any variety that opposes Trump, a lot of people feel that the shutdown could be attributed directly to Trump or that Trump is responsible for the current government shutdown that we're in, which is now on day three. I think a lot of people, as the time progresses and we go deeper into the shutdown, a lot of the hyperventilating that even people that hate Trump were doing in day one of the shutdown has tempered down now that we're in the third day and we're now on the heels of a weekend. Today's Friday here in the it's Friday everywhere, but it's Friday or afternoon, early afternoon Friday, and we're heading directly into the weekend. And even though the press, like I watched a lot of the local news. I try to watch local news every day. Um, and I live in New Jersey, but within eye shot of New York City. So we get the same local news as New York City does here in the area of Jersey, which I live in. A lot of the local news is tries at like a little input here and there of making it seem as if Orange Man bad and trying to lay the blame of this shutdown at the feet of Trump. But most of my other news or most of how I see people are acting comes from YouTube. I love YouTube. I think this is the illest app of any app because it gives a perspective of a regular person like myself or like you, the listener. And I like to get that perception more than getting my info from the news, like how people are reacting in on a everyday level, like whether that be on YouTube or in real life, and like what they're saying. And again, like most of the people I listen to on YouTube don't like Trump. Most of the people here in northern New Jersey, again, within eye shot of New York City, don't like Trump neither. But now we're again in the third day of this shutdown. Hi, David. Hope you're having a good day. Now that we're deeper into the shutdown and we're at the third day currently, peace, Mark Nash. A lot of that sting or a lot of that hyperventilating regarding Orange Man bad and the shutdown has directly to do with Trump. It's dissipating. It's not holding the same effect like it was early on, and it's good to see. I do remember the last shutdown we went through. I believe was in 20. It was in 2017, but I know the last shutdown was for 18 days. David asked, "Is it me or why is it you stream with just the profile picture?" My front facing camera is crusty. Look, I'll show you my front facing camera now. Look at that. That's me and my front facing camera, and my phone is old and I'm not trying to bag a new one. But and plus I have a catcher's mitt face right now from these allergies, and I just keep sneezing and my face is all dried out. Not that I give a shit. Like, I mean, I'm not much to look at on a regular basis, but I want to keep my profile pic running. But going back to the shutdown, uh, my man Mark Nash says that shit dirty. I'm pretty sure you're talking about the shutdown, but or the camera. But you don't have insurance to replace it for 30 dents. Nah, I don't have insurance on this phone. My phone is old, 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 old. I think my phone is probably from probably 2019. I think I don't. I try not to. I when I had to buy this phone again, I bought a brand new version of the old one. I'm cheap, extremely cheap. But nevertheless, bro, you got a Nextel chirp. Nah, I never liked the Nextels either when I was young. I always had everything but like the Nextel, like, and I never had an iPhone in my whole life either. Yeah, the Nokia flat joint. I wish I could get one of those. But again, going back to this shutdown, a lot of what the Trump administration or Republicans in mass are specifically saying, like, why they don't want business to commence or why they want to keep the government shut down, and largely has to do with the 200 billion, according to Republicans, according to the Trump administration. They say that they liberal or the Democrats want 200 billion that would be utilized for healthcare for the illegal immigrants in this country. And what the Democrat response is, like Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer and a lot of the Democrats are saying, Bruce Gas, peace to you, buddy, are saying that there's no way that 200 billion, or there's no way that that health insurance is being received by illegal immigrants. And I come from New York City. I live in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, the second largest Chinese community in America, or in the East Coast, according to some. And if you go to the hospitals in my neighborhood, Maimonides Hospital and Lutheran Hospital, there's not one American looking person in there receiving care. It seems like the whole thing is inundated by non-speaking, non-English speaking people, largely Asian and Latino, Latinx, as my liberal friends like to say, but definitely not Latinx of the purple hair variety that are born in this country. No, it's Latinos that you could tell clearly that they haven't been here long term, and they've been and this has been going on for a minute. Like as far as them receiving free healthcare, because I know they're not going into their pockets and paying for it. What's an American looking person? Somebody that I know for sure has the semblance of they've been here for a while. You know, like rather like, and especially in my neighborhood, you got to remember too. Sunset Park, I was born and bred. Like I've been there my whole life, and it's not a large neighborhood. Probably 20 blocks by it's probably like 20 by 20 as far as regular New York City streets go. And I know most of the people there, most of the people there know me. So I mean, like when there's somebody who looks like they don't belong, or they looks like they just got there, I could clearly tell, especially when they're Asian. Um, but since the Asian wave happened in my neighborhood, particularly, which was probably in the early 2000s, there's always been a large older population. And when you go to the Social Security offices or the government assistant offices, it's packed with, it used to be packed with a lot of people from the Asian community, none of them speaking English. Like they would have one person that would speak for them, and then they would have just a total inundation of Asian Americans in like the Social Security office, older Asian Americans at that. And I believe that if you're elderly in this country, regardless of the status, I mean, I've observed that many of the elder population that is in this country, whether they were born here or not, are eligible for Social Security. And I mean, I don't think that I'm gonna be able, like the Social Security funds are gonna be there for when I do eventually retire. But certainly don't think that older person from another country should be receiving Social Security benefits. Bruce Gas says, my grandmother has been here legally for 50 years and still looks like she got off the boat. Yeah, no, I don't do it just based off how and that's more of an anomaly, I guess. But if I even if I were to go to the East River area, like or Boston or whatever, I could tell like, and I'm not from those areas. I'll use my detection skills or my regular senses, and I could tell in most cases, somebody who maybe just got here and who doesn't like, who is born here or who's been here. Um, but again, we're held up by the Democrat Party with the 200 billion that they want for healthcare for migrants, and these funds usually don't go directly for these philanthropic causes for buying band-aids or gauzes and insulin, even for an immigrant population. Like usually that gets thrown into some sort of fund or some sort of dark money projects, and or not dark money projects, but it's usually just money that's wasted. But I do, from the looks of it, it seems like the Democrats are trying to play word games and saying that, well, like no immigrant is receiving uh, health care or health insurance. But in 2025, I mean, and knowing what I know about liberals, in which they try to change definitions on the fly. Like when you say, oh, I don't want illegal immigrants here, is anybody really illegal? Like, they'll come with like a dumb response like that, or like, or if I don't think aliens or illegal aliens should belong. Well, technically, like I don't like to get caught up in like the weasel wordry that liberals try to pull over me. Again, this is speaking from a New York City liberal through and through. I was more liberal than most of the people that were around me politically, especially leading into even the early 2000s. I was super woke. I had a big time problem with being policed by people that, you know, um, were of a lighter complexion, and I would bitch at it at every turn. Believe me. Um, Also, being involved in New York City nightlife, that's a very at times there's a lot of rainbow in that crowd, and I've never had a real issue with the gay community. It may sound that way, it may sound like I'm being tough on them, but I'm more tough on the people that try to push the submitting to that lifestyle onto children and trying to insert it at every turn in terms of entertainment, like TV shows and whatnot. And, I more have an issue with that, but I don't have an issue with who people get plugged by in their bedroom. Let me see. Nobody should be here without coming in the proper way. Yeah, definitely not. All they have to do is follow the law. All we need to do is enforce the current law and not bring in mass thugs to make up their own laws. Yeah, but also we got to remember that during the Biden administration, so many people came in here where the border was, for all intents and purposes, open. And I think even though, I was never for, military on the streets, and I don't put it past the fact that maybe this is like one of those problem reaction solution deals in which this was allowed even by Republicans for migrants to enter into the country at this scale and for them to leave us with a perpetual police state moving forward, because it's going to be almost impossible like to get even the people that came in the last 4 years under the Biden administration. It'll be nearly impossible for any administration to remove them, even if you use the best technology and boots on the streets. It'll be real tough to get them all out. Yeah, definitely. Yo, Bruce, I would love to have you on. Maybe the next time I'll hit you up right after this, and like maybe we could do a show together one of these days. Cause I don't know, I don't want to screw this one up. I'm doing it from my phone. And I don't know how to drop a link. But what the problem, like if there were a good way to remove a lot of these people who just came into the country, I think by drying up the resources which they would be entitled to under the, i.e., the 200 billion that the Democrats are requesting for them, by drying up these opportunities as far as for them receiving health care, if that's what it takes, I'm cool with that. If I even some people were riffing about paying immigrants to self deport, like paying them 5,000 or 1,000. I'm totally cool with that. Give them 10 G's and send them on their way. Like, I mean, like, well, it's a lot of money, but give them 2,000 and send them packing. I'm cool with self deporting. Just because I'm Latin or speak Spanish, that doesn't mean everybody that looks like me is brethren, or I'm race tripping. I have no affinity for people that have came into this country, especially under the Biden administration, where the worst of the worst, it seems, were allowed into the country. And I'm speaking from the perspective of seeing these people that have entered this country, a lot of them from Venezuela, that were dumped onto New York City. It doesn't seem like, a lot of people that don't live here in New York or in the tri-state area, they view a lot of these people coming into the country and then going to wash dishes and making guacamole, or teaching salsa lessons to yuppies or some shit. Like, they're not doing any of that. Like, in New York, it's mostly men, and they're doing the worst shit you could think of, robbing old women. They look at America as, listen, like, these people let us in here because we were suffering, and now we're gonna come into this country as as the biggest victims. Now we've replaced any minority that was already here suffering as the biggest victim and the biggest receiver of liberal philanthropy, and we deserve everything we get coming here. And, like, if we gotta rob, it's basically on them, for letting us in here, or they, we deserve it more than they do. My brother Michael Johnson, sorry, he said, "Nah, it's a Republican shutdown." Now pull up the bill. I believe it's on page 53, and read it out loud. I don't know if I could pull it up while I'm on the phone. But again, I mean, the claim that's being made is that there's 200 billion that they want to allocate for health insurance or medical care, however you want to frame it. I don't want to get caught in the semantics of a definition, but the Democrats seem to want that 200 billion, and the Republicans are specifically saying that that 200 billion is not going to happen, and we'll keep the government shut down. Again, also got to factor that Democrats like to use a lot of weasel wordery, and they'll change the definitions on the fly. Like, I heard Hakeem Jeffries, the um, minority leader, saying that no, full stop, no immigrants are receiving health care. And I'll go to Maimonides Hospital in Ninth Avenue and 50th Street, Brooklyn, New York, my neighborhood, right now with the camera. And if there's if 50% of the people you see there aren't immigrant looking by you, the YouTube viewer that's not from my neighborhood, I would give $1,000 to the charity of Michael Johnson, my brother Michael Johnson, Boxing Talk Moore's Choice. But I know for a fact that if I go to Lutheran Hospital, Maimonides Hospital in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, and any clinic along Fifth Avenue in my neighborhood, 80% of the people you see there are definitely not American looking. And you could probably do interviews and they won't speak English. And this has been happening again even before the Biden administration. I think when the Chinese wave came into my neighborhood, know I was told that a lot of them were coming because they received Social Security, their elderly do. Whereas if they stay in China, the laws back then, I don't know if they're the same now, were that if you were a man above the age of 32, you were responsible for all the medical care for your parents, your wife's parents, your wife's grandparents and your own grandparents. So what they were doing is that they were shipping those elderly into gullible America, and that gullible America let them receive Social Security, um, based on the fact that they were elderly and they were in America. I'm sorry, I missed some comments. You rob somebody, you break the law, you go to jail. If you're an illegal immigrant, you get deported. What's so difficult to understand about that? Yeah, I mean, normally that should be the case, and unfortunately, that doesn't happen. A lot of the immigrants that came under the Biden administration were, by the sign of a pen, granted asylum status, and immigrants that come here illegally or whatever classification they have is far different than asylum seekers, which a lot of these people that came in under the Biden administration by the stroke of a pen received the status of asylum seekers. And with that, it's hard to deport them. Like, there's a lot of people that commit crimes in New York City that were pretty much allowed to be freed from 2020 to 2024. And that's also, with these liberal cities and liberal states like Chicago, Los Angeles, New York City. They have really soft on crime policies and are total proponents of, you know um America needing more illegal migration. A lot of times too, I know how the political landscape has changed in this country. If people view things as a an act politically that would spite Trump or that would make Trump look bad, they're totally for it. And I think that applies to the migrant or illegal migrant debate too. Like, where a lot of people, like, they don't see the wrong in allowing so many illegal immigrants in this country. And I think they don't see the wrong just because they think that Trump doesn't like immigrants. Let me see, bro. Illegals can't. Let me see. Read the damn bill, bro, or don't point the finger. Nah, I don't want to get into. I know for sure that the holdup is the 200 billion. But bro, illegals can't go to hospital. Shaking my head. If someone is sick or hurt, a hospital ain't gonna turn you away. I'm totally for emergency care for everybody that needs it. Um, I'm not opposed to that. But if you don't belong in the country, I mean, you don't belong in the country. I think that's the bigger part of the debate. So if it was a case of, somebody goes into a hospital, receives health care, and then they find out they're illegal and send them packing, I'm totally with that. 100%. I think what we have on our hands, as far as illegal immigration, or my state of mind with illegal immigration, has changed so much more in the last 4 years. Supposedly 28 million illegal immigrants have entered the country during that time. A lot of them, some of the worst people. And I sometimes crack down on, like, the migrants from Venezuela that have entered during that time. But most of these countries that are entering in during 2020 to 2024 are bad characters. Like, you take African nations that are entering New York City. A lot of the African cats that came into New York City before, like, the Biden administration, I mean, they weren't really out doing bad, like, in the streets. Like, now a lot of these same cats kind of, like, either A, some of the bad people from these nations are entering. So, like, there's a little bit of a ramp up in, like, the bad stuff that they do, but also, again, they have a kind of like an entitlement in the sense that they think that America has entered a phase of gullible white guilt and that they deserve everything they got coming to them. I mean, like, and that's a fact. I mean, like, like, and they think that they kind of like move ahead of the line of other minorities who probably legitimately have a case of what's owed to them in this country. But some people are really caught up in, spiting Trump, that they're kind of like not like looking past that in a sense. Let me see. Why doesn't it happen? That's the law. I don't know. I mean, like, that's a really good question. Sometimes, too, these cases get caught up. Like, take for instance the Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego. Like, it's a popular example, but how many times has that case been stymied by liberal judges? Or, like, the process isn't just catch them and send them packing. It takes time. And I think purposely the Biden administration knew that having a mass wave of migrants was gonna sort of clog the system as far as getting people out, um, you know, expedite, speedy, expeditiously. I don't know. It's fast, and maybe it was a long-term plan. I don't know. Let me see. Wrong. To claim political asylum, you must prove it. You have a certain amount of time to do that, or if you don't, you must leave the country. I believe under the Biden administration, I think it was called the CBP One app or something, in which all you pretty much had to do was like was to sign up for asylum. And asylum, with liberals now just means that they're not eating in their country or something like that, or they're from another country, they want to come into America, asylum. Again, like, liberals kind of like screw up definitions of things on the fly. And what they consider asylum seekers, I don't consider asylum seekers. I think if you're avoiding your country, because that country's politics could harm you or kill you, that's a real political asylum in my case. But some 26-year-old from Venezuela who is clear criminal coming into America seeking asylum is not an asylum seeker for me. And not everybody should be granted asylum, even the ones that have legit claims. Go seek asylum if you're from Venezuela in Mexico. Then leave Venezuela and stop at one of the other countries that you pass en route to America and stay there. Seek asylum one of those places. Um, Let me see. Michael Johnson says, right, Bruce. So tell me, do you like to see ICE agents roam the city with no one to answer to? It scares the hell out of me. No, definitely don't. I'm not a person who sees police and my heart warms up. Don't back the blue in most cases. In most cases, the police were the acting like tyrants, enforcing COVID standards that I was against. I'm against not being able to hang out in the public during the COVID lockdowns. And it was the police or paramilitary organizations that were enforcing these things. Like in Minnesota, Tim Walz sent the National Guard out to enforce COVID laws. And again, my heart doesn't flutter when I see police or military. So no, it's not nothing I like. But again, we have a big problem that the Biden administration placed at America's doorstep in allowing all these immigrants into the country. So if they gotta really be aggressive about, especially taking the worst out first, like, which is what I've heard from the Trump administration, they want to get the worst first out of America. If it takes National Guard, if it takes whatever, I'm with it. I mean, even if you don't take the worst first, take a bunch of them, take half out fast. But that's not happening. I think the people that have been deported is still like under a million. Again, 28 million that entered from the southern border. So I think Trump's slacking. I think he should rivet up these deportations, send them all back. You see, I'm over here sounding like a redneck, and I'm a Puerto Rican from New York. But that's what the liberals have brought to me, or their politics. Like, what is gullible white guilt? Like, what is gullible white guilt? Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a term that I use a lot. Again, I have a lot of most of my white friends from New York City are gullible white, in the sense that they feel like it become very popular to kind of like race trip in the last 10 years or so. And where, for instance, like if somebody were to have a regular political debate and a white person says anything, where somebody will be like, "Oh, well, how would you know if, you're white or whatever." And a lot of times, what's the response to that? As from a white dude. I'm not a white dude. I'm Puerto Rican. But they usually don't respond by saying anything, like, cuz it's like, you know, there's sort of some truth in it, but there's no real good response. If you respond in any way, like you'll kind of open up yourself to at least a real violent response. But with that, you have like liberal white women, like for instance, like they a lot of times were cool with or didn't see a problem at the border, or they'll say, "Oh, well, if there's a problem at the border, so what?" Like those people um should, are seeking asylum, or those people are suffering wherever they're coming from. And they'll just, like they'll allow by way of like some sort of guilt to allow things that may not benefit America or benefit even themselves to happen based on, gullible white guilt, or hating on Trump, you know, or hating on Republicans, or hating on men, hating, you insert source of guilt. I don't see how you can't see that this is a Republican shutdown. Um, I mean, regardless, I'm with it. I'm like if the pressing issue, which only see one issue, which is being brought up by Republicans or Democrats, which is the sticking point of 200 billion being allocated for the healthcare of migrants. Whoever gets the blame, I'm with it. I don't think migrants should get shit. I think they should get a ticket home. Let me see. I don't see. Let me see. I think they told you eggs were gonna be cheaper and gas was gonna go down, and you bought the whole program. Well, no, I didn't brought the. Well, eggs did become cheaper. I went to Aldi in the last month or so. They've been 3.98 for a pack of 18 pack of eggs. Even during the Trump administration, it went down from 4.98 to 3.98, but it stood at 3.98. The other day I went and it was 3.48 for an 18 pack of eggs too. So in essence, the price of eggs did go down. Gas is kind of like staying steady at 2.97 where I live. I do want gas to go down, but that's not the only reason I voted for Trump. I mean, I just don't like liberal lunacy. Again, speaking from my perspective as a New York City liberal, what the liberals have become in the last couple of years, whether that be surface level issues like the whole idolizing of the rainbow movement, you know, or having male perverts that are dressed in women's costumes to read in the presence of children, or having male perverts that are cosplaying women um, enter into women's spaces. Again, I was raised as someone who defends women, but nowadays, I mean, you have mostly liberal white women, fighting for these things. The landscape has changed, so I'm no longer a liberal, but I definitely don't align with anything that they're pushing, which is basically just Orange Man bad, and everything that Orange Man doesn't want, I want. I don't rock with that politically, and I don't like rock with everything that Trump does. I think he's too cozy with a certain Middle Eastern nation. I'm not 100% cool with the military policing, but I think that certain cities, my city being one, has gone way out of control. New York City, Chicago needs to be reeled in significantly. But and I think a lot of people in Chicago and New York feel the same way. Like they would prefer to see a militarized New York at this stage when things have gotten so bad with a lot of the drug use and nut jobs being cleared up. I think that if the cost of that was a over policing, then most people would go for it. And I would go for it myself. Again, I don't like seeing police, but my mom lives in New York and a lot of old people live in New York. They can't even go out right now. They've changed their lives to just watching TV and staying indoors. Bruce, he did and he still does. I don't know what you're talking about. Michael Johnson says, "See, you didn't read, and it's only for illegal migrants, i.e., the people with legal status." I'm sorry. See, you didn't read it. It's only for legal migrants, i.e., the people with legal status. That's another thing, though, too. Legal status right now is a hazy definition, and I'm telling you from firsthand experience, all the hospitals in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, in all of Brooklyn, in mass, by and large, at least half the population, half the people that are there receiving healthcare are not of this country. Um, Let me see. What are your thoughts on the Epstein files? Good question. I think that they should be released in mass. I think it's fantastic that we finally have people talking about the Epstein situation, the Epstein files, even if it's people's suspicions that Trump is within those files. I'm totally for it. If Trump is within those files, or if there's skeletons in Trump's closet in relation to Epstein, and they're released, I'm fine with that. I'm 100% cool with that. I don't. If you want to hear my why I think Trump isn't releasing the Epstein files theory, let me know and I'll tell you. What you think soldiers or cops? Their sole job is fighting wars. Yeah, I don't think soldiers should be utilized as a policing force, or I think they call it posse emeritus. Um, but I also view the mass migration that happened under the Biden administration as an invasion, and if we have to quell that invasion or stop that invasion by utilizing soldiers, I'm cool with that. But also, if we have to deport people in mass through some sort of military operation, I'd accept that. If we got to use any tact, any plan, like to get illegal immigrants out of here, I'm almost cool with any one of them, as draconian as that may sound. You think so? You know he is. I'm telling you, I'm letting you know. Tell me, you must said the opposite. Oh, the my theory is that the Trump administration. Well, I think that um, if Trump were in the Epstein files, the Democrats would have released it, and the Epstein files were in the hands of the Obama administration, the Biden administration, and they know who's who and who's who in the zoo and what's what, or who's in it and who's not. And again, if Trump would have been in there, they would have put it out there for all to see and to try to bring Trump down in relation to the Epstein files. But Trump isn't in the Epstein files in the way a lot of people think. I think that he did utilize Epstein's plane to go into New York City supposedly twice, but Trump also had bad things to say about Epstein even before he became popular. That is Epstein. Um, but we have the midterms coming up in next year, and I feel that Trump can use the Epstein files against his enemies, like the liberal establishment or the liberals, and that he's probably reserving it until that point. That's just my theory, or that's a possibility, if you will. I'm not saying that I'm right. I have a lot of theories, but all I have is time at this stage. But if maybe I feel that he's not releasing it, or they're not releasing it, or that Trump is saying that it's a hoax, so that the media and his enemies or the liberals keep bringing it up, and that maybe he'll release everything that's there to see come midterm time. That's just my theory, and it's not really my theory. I actually heard another good channel that I watch, according to Sam. Um, say that could be the case, and just a fun theory, I guess. Let me see. You must have said the opposite. Any means necessary, just he's a pedo. Musk got it. Trump will impose martial law and there will be no midterm votes. I don't know about that. Who knows at this stage? Anything's possible right now. I mean, we're entering into a real crazy time in our existence as humans. And I've said this to most people I know is that we're living probably in the craziest time in mankind's existence. I mean, AI wasn't even a thing that I knew of, and I've seen AI videos that look more realistic than anything that the Hollywood studios are putting out right now. Or I've seen AI answer like long-term like questions, like on the fly. You have the 3IA Atlas intergalactic object that's in our solar system as we speak, and it's going to be closest to Earth, I think, next week, October 9th. Um, and I mean, like the mass migration that was allowed into the country, political assassinations. I mean, 2025 is the most lit year um, in mankind. I mean, you're a couple years older than me, Bruce. I don't know if you lived through crazier times than this, but I'm in my mid 40s at this tenure, and this is definitely the craziest time I've lived, or the craziest time for the world that I've observed in my short time on this earth. Let me see. Do you know anything about Project 2025? I don't. No, not really. I've heard about it, and Trump actually said that one of the architects of Project 25, that he was going to consort with him yesterday to see what government jobs could be cut in perpetuity or forever, which I'm totally cool with that. Somebody who lived in DC for a year and worked in those spheres, most government agencies and most government jobs or most government employees are not necessary. The mass expansion of the DC metro area that's happened in the last 15 years has happened because of unnecessary government jobs being created. And I think the expansion of government jobs is a bad sign for the economy of the country. That means the government has to create jobs rather than industry. Let me see. It's all planned, and Trump is following it to a T. That's probably 2025 you're alluding to. Republicans shut it down on the orders of Trump, and they're blaming it on a lie, bro. Could be. I mean, but I don't see many Democrats saying, well, we don't need that 200 billion for migrants. And again, I don't trust anything that comes out of the liberal establishment's mouth in 2025. You know, most of my favorite politicians when I was a young man were liberals. But I know not only liberal politicians, the liberal media, liberal establishment, they'll change words or definitions on the fly. So they'll say like legal migrants, or but these things are legal under which definition? Biden's definition, or so I'll reserve the thought that Trump, in the moves that he's done in the past and now, are for the best interest of Americans, not mankind. Not the best interest of humanity. Even though I think he does do a lot of things for the greater good of that benefit the good of the planet at times, where liberals don't do that. Liberals benefit people that are insane and make it feel as if you're crazy for calling them insane. But it's a lie. It's a truth whether liberals shut it down. I don't believe what liberals believe to be true in 2025, and that's by their own fault. I lived through the Nixon years. Were the like let me know like were the Nixon years crazier than this? I know besides Nixon getting impeached by Watergate, I don't know much of what Nixon did, but I think politically the scandals that have been done against Trump, like with what Comey's being investigated for right now, the fake Russia collusion that the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for, which Trump still suffers through because of till this day, are bigger scandals than Watergate by a lot too. There ain't enough police, and the police don't have enough. Police don't have the resources. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of police in New York City, but they're by and large have been directed to become lazy assholes. They'll see crime and they'll brush it away, or they'll act like they don't see it. But who knows? Viewers, only 2 viewers, down to one. Yeah, thank you, Julian Nahara, that you've observed this. But subscribe and help me get more viewers. His name is Russell Vought, and he's part of the Trump staff. I'm a right or wrong person, no matter what the politics. So you could say I lean to the right. It's good to know. I'm not good with giving up my civil liberties. Let me know which civil liberties you've given up, though. But also, too, I think that liberals were infringing upon, you know, my civil liberties, and with the COVID mess, when they were taking victory laps when these mandates were imposed. Biden actually said that it was because of his policy that 99% of the airline industry was forced to take the jab. And speaking as myself, a quote unquote so called minority, Puerto Rican from New York, the so called minority community was the most vaccine hesitant. We don't trust um, what the government's recommendation is on a new technology that was introduced during the with the COVID vaccine. A lot of people that looked like myself and the so-called minorities were the most hesitant community with the vaccine, but were forced by way of mandates that were propped up or pushed by employers that had to cave into the government during the Biden administration. I was definitely opposed to that. So I think that that was more imposing on my civil liberties than anything that Trump got going on. If Trump snatches up some migrant dude and sends him on his way, I mean, that migrant dude don't have squat to do with what I got going on. So for all intents and purposes, he could squash their liberties. I don't care. Trump is in the files, good or bad. That was his friend. But remember, Trump was the only person of note who said anything bad about Jeffrey Epstein. And according to Speaker Johnson, he said that Trump was a FBI informant against Epstein. I haven't heard many people say, "Well, that's a lie." Trump wasn't an informant for the FBI, and I believe that some of the Epstein victims' lawyers actually thanked Trump for giving information against Epstein. So, I mean, again, I don't know what's in the Epstein files of now. I mean, I know that the liberals are bringing it up in 2025 because they feel that Trump is within those files. I'm cool with it though. I'm cool with the files being released, regardless of who is in it. In spite of the fact that I want Trump to do well, if he's in the files and he did something wrong, then he should face a steep penalty. But I think that my theory in that they're holding the files for a later date, or that maybe Trump thinks that the liberals clamoring for the Epstein files benefits him for when he eventually does release it. Under my theory, is beneficial to him, I guess. I don't know. Let me see. Is director of the Office of Management and Budget is Russell Vought. I don't know. An FBI informant Common, I told you, but he knew about Project 2025. I think most of the people that bring up Project 2025, or at least when Trump was running for the presidency, a lot of the people that were talking about Project 2025 also didn't know about Project 2025. Besides the fact that it was brought up as some sort of a demonization term that was supposed to be negative against Trump. Trump actually said on his Social post where he was going to consort with the architect of Project 2025 um, to see which government jobs would be eliminated. So it's not like he was trying to hide it. Again, I don't know squat much about Project 2025 other than like the fact that the liberal media was running wild with it. But if Project 2025 brings me closer to eliminating 28 million migrants, then I'm a proponent of Project 2025 without reading it. Let me see. It's the plan to take over the country from every level. He's doing it, and you won't see it. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I felt like I was under some sort of incursion under the Biden administration. I mean, the fact that a lot of channels were censored here on YouTube, on Facebook. If you were a channel during the Biden administration and were making content that was showing vaccine hesitancy, you were taking out of the this platform that I'm on right now, or Facebook, Twitter. Trump was censored on Twitter at the end of his own administration as well, and a lot of liberals were clapping for the that kind of censorship. And when going back to the Biden administration, they were actually telling Twitter, YouTube to not only eliminate videos that showed vaccine hesitancy or that were critical of their administration or what their administration wanted, but they were also telling these platforms on record, this is on like has been released at this point, instructing these platforms to eliminate some of these channels outright. I think last week a lot of YouTube and Facebook was saying that they wanted some of these channels to come back, or that they were going to have a lot of these channels come back to their platform. But I think that during the Biden administration, if you were against mass immigration or called out the mass migration at the southern border that was happening as a negative thing, that you were, sequestered or you were censored on these platforms. And we now know that the Biden administration was reaching out to these platforms directly to do just that, to censor for things that were lunacy, like mandates with the jab, with mass migration, with being opposed to the male cosplaying as women community. Again, most of these guys are men that are trying to dress up as women and infringe on the spaces of natural born women, again, or men dressed up as women who are trying to infringe into spaces where children are. Like, I don't see many people that are cosplaying, or men, mostly white men too. I mean, like, I gotta throw that caveat in there. These a lot of these mostly white men that dress up as women, I don't see them going to read in old people's homes. I don't see them going to read in a veterans hospital. They mostly were trying to read, to children or be in children's spaces. And I think if you spoke about that during the Biden administration, you were censored. And this was, kind of like baked into the cake. Americans came to accept that kind of treatment, and I think a lot of the conversation with all these things, whether that be the jab, the transformer community, the mass migration that was allowed under that time. I think a lot of Americans kind of didn't want to speak candidly about these things, or didn't want to speak about them in a negative connotation because of the fact that censorship for those issues was kind of like accepted because it was being done, hand in hand with the government and these social media platforms. Let me see. Uh, it's the plans. A lot of RuPaul's in Rhode Island. Really? I don't know. I mean, I don't go deep into Rhode Island. I mean, the Tiverton is probably like as deep as it goes, and that's you know stones throw away from your hood. But I know there's a lot of where I've noticed that it's largely increasing, believe it or not, is my second favorite state, unfortunately, and it's happened in the last like couple years since I started visiting, which is Maine. A lot of freaks in Maine. I've noticed it's kind of like disenfranchising to see. Makes me not want to go. But again, you have a large white population in Maine too, and that gullible or the need to try to enrage um, maybe the regular Maine white population is high, and it kind of incentivizes the transformer community kind of waving their flag there or waving their balls. Let me see. Maine, the whitest state in the union. Yeah, I know. And it's crazy too. And where I stay, I'm cool with the people that have the house. There's like a lobster operation pretty much right next to where I stay, and I know that they're not like politically with a lot of like what Maine is becoming, but they're like kind of like feel like at times like where they can't speak out because they don't want to get laughed on. But Maine, I mean, you're starting to see a bunch of Chinese. There's a lot of Chinese out there doing bad things too with illegal grow operations, bringing fentanyl into Maine, and Maine is going through a big time fentanyl problem as we speak. You also have a large Somalian Ethiopian community in Maine, and I've been around a lot of Ethiopian Somalian cats in Washington D.C. when I lived down there, and they seem like cool people. I mean, like a lot of them are a little bit on the stuck up side. I ain't gonna front, but they were real good people. The ones that are going into Maine, I mean, they seem really sketchy. They seem really sketchy and really pissed off, entitled, if you will. And that's a bad mix. You have a lot of gullible white mixed in with mass migrations that are kind of being seemingly funded by these like dark groups. And I think Maine's on its way down. Like Maine's on its way to become Minnesota or Colorado or these other states that are largely white that have been hyper liberalized by way of that gullible white guilt that I brought up in the past in earlier in this stream. But with that, I'm starving and I gotta do some stuff around the house. But I want to thank my brother Bruce Gas for coming through. My brother Mr. Johnson, Boxing Talk and More for coming through. If you guys could please listen to this, if you guys could subscribe to these two channels as well. The people, although they may not agree with me politically, I think they're really good people and they make really good content. But please subscribe to Bruce Gas, Boxing, Chaz, and More. Also, please subscribe to my brother, Mr. Johnson, Boxing Talk and More. But if you happen to listen to this after the fact, help me grow this channel. Like, share, subscribe. With that, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'll probably come back in the weekend. My Mets got eliminated from playoff baseball, unfortunately, or from entering into the playoffs. So I have nothing better to do. And I want to try to come on here more frequently. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'm out. Peace.